Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Akalon here, and welcome back to each and one of you. Of course, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. We're looking at Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It is a single-player only RPG, story-driven as hell. This game is literally tied for first with Witcher 3, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and then Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 as my top RPGs ever in the history of the world. So that's just full disclosure right there. I am a massive fan. I've played almost 20 hours of the game. Well, about 18 and a half hours, 10 hours of Mass Effect 1. I did about 5 hours of Mass Effect 2, and then 3.5 hours of Mass Effect 3, so that I could get a full overview of all of the game. And so that I could formulate these thoughts. Now, this is going to be a slightly different review. The reason for that, of course, is I'm going to tackle it from what is the remake like, but also for people who's never played it, sort of explaining why this is such a good game to get into. Maybe if you didn't play the first 3 games, should you get into the Enhanced Edition or the remake for Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. Now, before we continue with the video, please remember there is a tax on YouTube. The tax is to spank the little like button as hard as you can. You pay the tax, you can watch the content for free. It costs you nothing, but the like button must be smashed. And also for your convenience, because I know you are all very busy, I will have timestamps in the video timeline down below. So if you want to skip to things that you care more about, you are more than welcome to do so. But if you've never played the game, I would suggest watching all of it so that you do get the full experience and you know what you're going into, and you can walk into this game with both eyes open. With that said, let's jump. Before we can do anything else, we have to talk about, that's right, story, exploration. What is this world about? Now, Mass Effect is not an open world game. It is far more instanced. However, they do an amazing job of sort of shadowing that, sort of hiding that with a space map, a universe map, a multiverse map, if you will, and you get to travel to different solar systems throughout the game, and this opens up a lot of info about planets. You can do surveys of specific planets. Sometimes you'll even discover artifacts on those planets that allow you to sort of see worlds that you never thought you would be able to see. It does give you a very real feeling of being a space explorer and being able to discover this universe. Now, first and foremost, when we get into the story, without spoiling anything, I don't want to go too deep on spoilers. Basically, it boils down to, in the year 2143, I believe, I might have this date wrong, but in the year 2143, humans discovered an artifact on Mars. This artifact jump-started human technology, and it allowed us eventually to join the rest of the universe, alien races, so to speak, in basically intergalactic politics, intergalactic economies, and allowed us to colonize many worlds throughout the universe. Humanity is the newest race that joined, so to speak, the intergalactic empire, and there's a whole lot of things that goes into that I will not touch on now because it's gonna get into spoiler territory. But yeah, just know that there is a lot of backstory, and the way the game presents it to you is actually as you go through dialogue options, which is a very big part of this game. Now, before we even get into that, allow me to say, this game will not respect your time. If you're someone who just want to skip through things and get to combat bits and sort of just finish the game, you're gonna feel very, very sort of unfulfilled at the end of this game, since a lot of this game plays like a movie. This is, in effect, one of the largest movies ever made. A lot of the game, I would say the vast majority of this game, is spent in cutscenes, dialogue options, drilling down on people, figuring things out. Sometimes you have quests that the whole quest is just to talk to different people and sort of gather information and then relay the information to the original quest giver. Quests make a lot of sense. There is main quests and sort of side quests. This game does a wonderful job of allowing the main quest and the side quest to sometimes slot into one another, where you'll get a side quest and then later on you'll realize that this side quest actually played a massive part in, later on in the game that you didn't even know prior to doing it. You just thought this was a fairly simple quest. There's one quest, for example, I won't spoil it for you, but I will say you get a quest fairly early on to scan the keepers inside the Citadel, and as you scan them, you finish it, you get a bunch of credits, and that's really it. Not really. Hold on to your horses, because that will play a part later on in the game. It's not going to play a part immediately. For now, you are done. That's how this game is designed. It is incredible, but you have to take it slow. You have to be willing to simply search and discover. This is why this is one of my favorite games of all time, because I am someone who only cares about story when it comes to games like this. Dialogue options is extremely limited, but at the same time very much in depth. Sometimes you do get dialogue options that you look at all of the options, you go, but none of these are things that I wish to say. And I wish sort of, EA would have done a bit of a better job of adding maybe more dialogue options. But then again, I understand this is a remake, and in that sense, the game does hold true to its old sort of, style and its old charm. But yeah, the story of this game is just absolutely amazing. Sorry, something that I quickly... Alex, please drop me into the video right now. Drop me into the story and exploration part of the video right now, because I completely forgot to say this before I moved on. Everything you do in this game, every choice that you make, every decision that could potentially impact the future of the game. It could impact how the game ends. It could impact how certain quests end. It could impact how certain characters may respond to you. All of these things matter. Sometimes it's not even direct consequences. It's consequences that may actually feature far later into the story. There's a part in Mass Effect 1 where one of your, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but one of your party members has an issue with something that was done to his species very long ago. If you help him fix the thing that was done to his species, it will most likely lead to a war of the universe 100 or 200 years from now. If you don't help him, you lose him as a party member. So this is something that you have to keep in mind right off the bat. Decisions matter in this game. Anyways, Alex, take me out. Let's continue with the video. So now that we got the story part out of the way, let's talk PC specs, graphic options, things like that. You get very little in this game. There's no sliders for quality. There's no sort of shadow distancing or distancing sliders. Nothing that you would expect in a modern day RPG. Basically, what the game gives you is resolution. You can choose the resolution, and I will say though, it goes up to 4K, so you have all of the resolutions available to you. You can choose windowed mode, so full screen, windowed, borderless, and you can go monitor selection, so where you want to put your monitor, and then you have dynamic shadows on or off, motion blur on or off, VSync on or off. If you turn VSync off, you have a slider, or actually a drop down that sort of allows you to set the frame rate. You have full grain on or off and anti-aliasing on or off. That's it. There's no ultra graphics. There's literally no presets whatsoever. That is it. There's one extra menu that you get where you can sort of choose HDR settings, but again, that is literally as deep as this game goes into graphic settings. So I am sort of worried in the sense for people that play with older machines. I have a very strong PC, 3080 graphics card. I have a Radeon 5900X, so my PC didn't struggle playing this game at all. But what happens to someone that doesn't have such a strong PC? Are they going to be able to play this game? Well, considering that it is also designed for consoles, I think you'll be fine. And based on some of the Reddit posts that I've been looking through, it seems like most people are fine. But wanted to point out, there's not a lot of graphical options in this game, which is bad. There should be more. Classes and talent, since that's a big part of the game, although not as big as you might expect. You have 6 classes to choose from. You have the Adept, the Soldier, the Engineer, the Vanguard, the Sentinel, and the Infiltrator. Now, each one of these 6 classes have certain weapons that they can or can't use, or at least that they specialize in. when it says specialize in, it simply means that you will get talents that will eventually allow you to get better with the use of that weapon. You still have access to all of the weapons. The weapons is an assault rifle, a pistol, a sniper rifle, and a shotgun. You'll have access to all of those, but you won't be able to specialize in them. And believe me, without specialization, some of those weapons feel absolutely miserable. When you do finally start specializing into them, they become powerhouses. So this is the 6 classes, and while the 6 classes won't have a tremendous effect on the game, especially on lower difficulties, if you do get into the hardest difficulties, this is where you'll have to really learn how to use your class, how to use your heals, shielding, things like that. Now, as for the talent system, I'm not going to go through each and every class and their talents. What I will say is a lot of the talents sometimes has some real world effects. So for example, you can have 2 party members, so it's teams of 3, you and 2 NPCs. This is how you explore the world. The entire game is premised on the idea of balancing your party. So you want a little bit of biotics, you want a little bit of tech, and you want a little bit of combat. And you can sort of decide how you want to do it, but if you're very strong, say for example in combat, there will be lockers that you simply can't open. There will be things, so for example security systems that you can't bypass because you have no tech. And therefore, there's literally no way for you to actually do any of these things. So you really want to pay attention. If you go, for example, with no combat, you'll find that it's a lot harder to do anything while you're in combat scenarios, because you're really the only person doing any damage. The rest of your group, they're not optimized for combat, so they're not really attributing or contributing to the overall effort. We'll get into the combat in a minute and talk a little bit about how the combat is supposed to work. However, from a class perspective, a lot of your options does have real world implications, but also as you're spending points in your sort of individual talents, you'll eventually unlock abilities. These abilities are usable by pressing shift on your keyboard. You can decide to press overkill, for example, which allow you to fire repeatedly without gaining any sort of without overheating your weapon, if that makes sense. So that's really how the game works. You get things like barrier, shielding, unity. All of these have their own sort of reasons for existing and their own sort of use case scenarios. And as I said, as you get higher up in difficulties, you eventually start realizing I need all of this. So sabotage, for example, jamming their weapons, these are things that's important. This is where the class system really shines. And maybe as a new game, and this is where we sort of have to veer off into something different, as a new game, perhaps not great. There are games with far better options, far better talent. But sticking to the old charm of the game as a remake, it's perfect. It's everything that I asked for. I didn't want them to change anything. I wanted this, and I got exactly what I asked for. Combat. Yes, we have to talk about the combat, because this is the one area where I will actually say Mass Effect is shit. It is not fun to do combat. It takes a while to get used to the combat controls, since shift is how you pause the game, spacebar is how you interact with things. Now you can change that in sort of in the key binding, in the keybinds, so you can change it and you can make it different options. The fact of the matter is, though, a lot of it is very clunky. There's bugs and things that actually I don't remember from the first 3 games that sort of entered into the remake. For example, I will run up to a sort of cover and I'll want to literally hide behind the cover, but my character just sort of runs into the cover. It refuses to actually hide. And then there's times where I will actually be hiding. I want to press the button to start shooting. My character just goes, no, I don't think I'll shoot now. I'm just going to stand here and just wait, right? So that's horrible. The gunplay is very bad, especially at the beginning. This is where we spoke a little bit earlier about specializations. Specializations does make gunplay a hell of a lot better. It changes the stability of your weapons. It helps quite a lot with how your weapons interact and how your weapons will, the rate of your fire, for example, the accuracy of your weapons. Once those get high enough, the combat gets a little bit better, but it never really shines. This game was definitely not built around the combat. The combat is sort of an afterthought of what the game is ultimately about, which is, of course, the story. So if all you want is amazing gunplay, this ain't it. The weapons doesn't have the hit factor that you get from actual first person or actual shooting games. You don't get that oomph where you feel like, oh my god, I am destroying things right now. That's not really how it works. Also, the weapons have a very interesting, fun mechanic, which I actually forgot about. And then once I saw it again, I was like, whoa, I remember this. I actually like this. There is no reloading function. The weapons simply overheat. So if you shoot for too long, for example, your sniper rifles can do about 1 or 2 or sometimes 4 shots if it's higher level sniper rifles and you have the right mods on it, which is another big thing of the game, which is gearing, and we'll get into that in a moment. But sort of all part of the combat system, these weapons will overheat, and when they overheat, you can't actually fire them for quite a while. They take a long time to actually cool down. So this is where you'll have to switch to a less optimal weapon so that you can actually continue firing. The AI is terrible. So I've had on numerous occasions now where the mobs will sort of rush me, get in, I don't know, do a couple of things and then rush back out and then go hide somewhere and just never show their face again, to the point where I have to run around the corner to go shoot them. They just don't shoot back. Another thing is I had one mob that just sort of didn't go. It would go behind cover and then immediately come out and stand well in the open and just soak all of the bullets. I had one of the boss fights where the boss got turned around somehow and it was just looking the other direction as I was shooting it, and I was like, well, okay, because it was literally just shooting in the opposite direction, not hitting me at all, just shooting into the fucking distance. So the AI is very bad. There's a number of bugs in the combat, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, that's not what this game is about. It wasn't designed for that. Now, as part of this conversation, as part of the discussion for combat, we also have to talk a little bit about gearing. Gearing in Mass Effect is extremely simplified. However, they do have a couple of tricks up their sleeve to, especially in number 1, it is extremely simplified. Mass Effect 2 and 3, it feels a little bit better. Some of your items feel a little bit better, but the mainstay, it remains the same throughout. You have your basic weapon sort of divisions, or your basic weapons. You have assault, shotgun, sniper rifle, and pistol. Every single time you get new weapons, you'll have to equip all of your party members with these new weapons and armors. Armors is sort of light, medium, and heavy, and then every race has their own sort of armor that they can wear. So really, almost every item in the game does the same things. For example, your armor will give you armor, so protection against physical bullets and stuff like that. It will give you biotic protection and tech protection. These are the 3 things. For your weapons, it's sort of damage, accuracy, and I believe overheat. So heat sinks. This is the 3 specs that you have. So you basically just want to make sure that whatever new weapon you're taking is higher on at least the damage and say stability than the previous weapon. And that's it. You have mods and you have bullet types that you can choose in the game. So bullets doesn't actually run out. It just changes the type of ammo. And this becomes incredibly important in higher difficulties of the game, since you do have bullets that, for example, armor piercing, which will do increased damage against synthetics. Then you have radioactive bullets, which will actually lower or increase cooldown times. So if mobs are using abilities against you, they won't be able to use those abilities until much, much later on, which is extremely helpful in boss fights and things. And you can change these mods and these bullets on the fly without losing them. Nothing ever disappears unless, of course, you turn it into Omnigel, which is a whole different thing. Whenever you want to, if you don't want to sell gear, you can turn it into Omnigel. Omnigel can be used to either bypass decrypted locks. There's a manual ability to do that, as well as just an automatic one. The manual, as far as I could tell, is only available on easy decrypt. As soon as you get to medium or hard, advanced decrypt, you can't really pay Omnigel in order to decrypt that. You just have to get in, and there's sort of a whole mini game around it that makes it really fun, really interesting to decrypt this and actually get some items, or sometimes just some mods and upgrades and stuff for the gear. The gearing isn't particularly great, but again, as I said before, it is what it is, right? This game was truly, you could see that the vast majority of the resources went straight into story design. They didn't think for a moment, hey, what we really need here is incredible weapons and armors and sort of gear design and shit like that. that didn't feature. They didn't give a shit about that. So yeah, sadly for those of you that like min-maxing, this is not that game. Not really. So after playing the game for almost 20 hours, 18 and a half hours, here are my thoughts on the game, my final thoughts. If you are someone that cares about story, that cares about lore, that wants to be teleported to a fantastic universe, this game is for you. Regardless of all of its drawbacks, regardless of the things that doesn't work, the game is for you. Graphically, what Mass Effect and EA and BioWare was able to achieve here is phenomenal. It stuck to the charms of the game. When I first got into it, I thought, well, it looks great, but I would have wanted to see more. As I kept playing, I was like, actually, no. This is exactly what I want. I wanted the charm from the first 3 games, but just in higher fidelity, a little bit more HD, looking better. There's better lip sync this time around. While not perfect, there are times where the lip sync is really weird, but overall, the game feels and plays amazing. I am in love once more with this game, and if you've never played it, you absolutely have to. It's $15 a month on EA Play Store. If you just want to try it out, pay the $15, test it out, see if it is for you. If you know after watching this review that no, this is my type of game, then I invite you to go buy it on Steam. It is quite pricey, $60, but considering that you are getting 3 games for the price of 1 game, I'm gonna say absolutely worth. This is everything that I wanted from the game. Now granted, I still have to keep playing. We still have to see how things play out. Remember, your options and your choices within this game will impact the end result. It will change how the game plays out for you. So everything in this game matters quite a lot. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my review of Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you like this video, if you like videos like this one, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, smash that bell. If you want to become a patron, find some behind the scenes exclusive content as well as a podcast every single week, then you can join the Patreon. Link is in the description down below. To everyone that wants to watch me live every Tuesday to Friday over on Twitch, link, you know where to go. And then of course, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun making it. As always, I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.